When I was a child, a long time ago, play was the stuff of my life. A game concocted with a toy or two gave as much pleasure as breakfast and lunch and dinner. And a story read to me by my father was better than dessert. As with all children, what I imagined or dreamed was as vivid as what I saw and heard and touched. But then we grow up. This is the real world. This is a real Long Island town, Lindenhurst, founded in 1873 by Silesian immigrants, farmers mostly. 27,000 people live here now. Midtown Manhattan is an hour away by train. The Hamptons are 2 hours in the other direction. In between is a whole array of old villages and hamlets like this one that are interesting to get to know. Places that are frank and functional, and mostly quiet, whether you're in Lindenhurst or Lynbrook, or Bayville or Bellport. In this town, the shopkeepers and counter people have been here a long time and know each other, or else grew up here. And the same is true for the barbers and cooks and waiters and librarians, and the folks who provide hardware and gasoline and insurance. One of the bakeries has been here in the same family for 83 years. And there are many other places, old and new, where food is served up on a tablecloth, or on a counter, or the quick way for the sidewalk strollers. There's a big Catholic school and church, and an Episcopal church, and a Baptist church, and a Methodist church, and a Spanish Pentecostal church, and a Ukrainian Catholic church. Like dozens of other Long Island towns, Lindenhurst has a live theater, in operation for almost 50 years. Patrons climb 24 steps to get to it. Inside, people play in the dark, acting out make-believe stories, after transforming themselves in a tiny dressing room. Other people, very practical people from this practical town, come to watch them. They come even when there are other make-believe pleasures waiting just down the street. Why?
I wrote my first play when I was in the 3rd grade. I used to put on a show in my living room on Christmas Eve, and I used to cast it with the people in my family and perform for my grandparents. We had more people on stage than we did in the audience.
Inspired by my mother.
I often say my mother and father did me a great disservice as a playwright by not giving me a dysfunctional family to grow up in. I had to find that in other places.
What the hell are you talking about?
She's young, she's pretty.
Come on, not this.
You say you want to change, but I know better. It's always the same with you, like an animal.
What the hell?
People that you made up in your head are walking around on stage. And that's a trip, because they're standing there, they're walking around, they're saying words you put in their mouths.
God damn it, this is my house. You got that? My house. I don't need anybody apologizing for me in my house.
Yeah.
And it's like, well, how the hell did that happen? You know, I just made them up.
There's usually a little bit of the character in all of us, don't you
Oh,
think?
absolutely.
Essentially, I mean,
a little bit of
define
us in the
something.
character.
I was going to say vice versa too.
Exactly.
Like there's a little bit of me in every character, but I take a little bit of each character away.
Yes.
Right.
Yes. You wake up from a deep sleep and you see an angel hovering above your bed. All right.
One of the most recurring themes in my plays is forgiveness.
Open your
What
eyes.
it means, what it doesn't mean, the consequences of not being able to forgive somebody.
Look, I'm not stupid. I know we can't go back, but we can go someplace. don't want to be the same guy anymore, Katie. I don't want to sit in the dark. I've been in enough fires in my life. Do you understand what I'm saying? Well, do you? Well, talk to me, for Christ's sake.
There are people in this world who cherish their resentments, they cherish their wrongs. They wouldn't know how to survive if they were taken away from them.
Stupid, dried up old bitch. You know what you are? You're dead. You're a walking corpse and you want me just as dead as you are.
No, she's not interested. She's just holding on to her anger, disappointment. And for me, I've lived her life before, so I was able to bring a lot of that to the character, but there's a lot that I didn't know about her either.
It's about you. It's about yourself.
I swear to God, if I have to spend the rest of my life in this house, they're gonna find one of us dead on the floor.
It was mine.
What I liked about this play was that it looked at a marriage, a middle-aged couple who were almost in a Cold War. And I knew that when the play opened, the audience's allegiance would be with the wife. And what we find as the play unfolds is that nobody is one thing. And there are two sides to a story. And slowly but surely our sympathies switch to the husband. And by the end of the play, we're not sure what to make of this couple. And that's what I liked about it. It was a play about real people.
Let's get married.
And again, judging from the audience's response, so many people have told me that they were still thinking about it the next day, or they were actually speaking to their spouse about it the next day. You know, when I took over here, I told the audience, I don't want to do the kind of play that you forget the minute you get into your car. We work so hard on these things that there's nothing gratifying to me about doing a show that is forgettable.
So why can't I get the bloody thing to work?
You know, it's funny, this is a play about a sculptor. And she slowly but surely shapes her creation. And that's really how I direct. At each rehearsal, I just shape another part of it. I want to create a non-threatening environment for the actors. And I find if you have intelligent actors who are intuitive, a word to the wise is sufficient. And then you watch it grow organically. And I think the results have been pretty good over the years.
I was going to try and say somewhere else.
We have a kids' production of Alice in Wonderland. And then once that ends next weekend, then we'll put up the set for the next show. So there are no days off. There is no downtime. Anytime I think I'm going to have a weekend off, someone calls and wants to rent the space, and financially I can't say no. So there's not a day off here. I'm glad at this time of my life I've started something completely new. You know, I never thought I'd be running a business at this stage. I have no business background whatsoever. So there is so much for me to learn, and every decision I make is existential, if you will, because I make the wrong decision, we go out of existence. So I've never had to worry about that before. And there's so many things that go wrong when you run a theater. You get a call in the middle of the night that the pipes in the ladies' room burst into the bridal shop underneath, and water is gushing down on the bridal gowns. And now what do you do? So there's so many things that I never conceived of having to deal with, other than just putting plays together, that takes up much of my time. And really the main source of anxiety is paying the bills, filling the seats. And constantly trying to find ways to bring people in. I went to a Facebook page for playwrights who were struggling to get their works produced, and within 6 months I received over 200 scripts. And I read much of all of them. I opened every one and read at least a third of every script. And I wasn't looking to see which play I thought was good or which was bad. I was looking for what were the best plays to work in this space for this audience. Also considering our budget constraints, our lack of fly space, our lack of stage crew, and a play that would work in the intimacy that we have in this theater, that would work well, that would benefit because of the proximity between the stage and the house. And only a handful really spoke to me that way.
Okay. Guys, especially in the courtroom scene, everybody listen up. Liam, you gotta, shh. Guys, Liam, you gotta stay in character when you're on stage. When you're on stage, you're focused on the scene, right? Can't be talking, don't take your ears off on stage, okay? Things we gotta talk about, okay? And guys, your costumes, bring them out here. I'm bringing you the rack for you to put them on. Liam, Jaden, stop.
The town built by farmers and working people is separated by miles of road and, of course, a wall from the waterside mansion of the Vanderbilts, now a museum, with its own planetarium and its own galleries of dead creatures. Down a cobblestone lane, in what was once the carriage house of the railroad tycoon's household, a group of living creatures plays in the dark.
Is that pretty big? I thought you were saying that to me.
Oh,
about me.
No, God, no.
My father was the first person to bring theater to Long Island. There was nothing here. He was the first person to bring it. And he's the oldest person to keep to direct as long as he's had.
All right, don't worry about it.
Just tell me.
I was 11 years old and looking for an acting class on Long Island, and my mom found a Rooner. And then Fred asked me to be in Shakespeare. And then I just kind of did show after show after show after show after that. Stage managing, directing sometimes, and acting pretty much all the time.
This is right there. I can't help it if I observe things.
I still get, every week I get about 3 different scripts a week, even now. And I'm not doing plays anymore though. I think I'll give more to him.
You're pretty good at that.
What, the truth?
Yeah, that. A lot of it's going to be based off of what I've learned from Fred and his model of running a theater. I always thought he had a really good sense of how to pick a season, so to speak. He would pick sort of a more crowd-pleasing show, like a Neil Simon, or a comedy, or a farce, and a murder mystery. And then he would do the more challenging plays, like an Edward Albee play, or a Martin McDonough play, or something like that, and the original work. So I kind of want to keep that balance going as much as I can.
Pencil that one on your
So before you know it, it grows. We develop a big following. If your work is good, people follow you.
Only lose you for weeks. A lot of directors sometimes they kind of just they give you the blocking or the stage directions. They tell you go here, go there, and then you're left to sort of figure it out on your own. Fred never really did that. Fred was always very clear about what the intention was in the scene, what the character was about, what the pacing was supposed to be. And so I think that helped me sort of develop my own directorial ideas, kind of based off of his, because he would work you like a director is supposed to.
Do you like Sprouts, or does that?
The creative process, getting it on stage. Because there you're dealing with personalities, you're dealing with other people's talent, you're trying to get them to explore their own talent, explore their own concept of who they are.
When Evan asked me to do it, he told me I'd be playing a really nasty character, and because I usually play like ingenues, I was excited about it. And then when I read the script, it's not cut and dried. I mean, she's nasty, but she has a point about the way Tom treats women, and she takes it out on the other woman, but that's not right.
Talking around shit, that's what I'm saying. I hate that. Are you dating someone?
I have always liked sort of a black box type spaces where it gives sort of an intimate feeling with the audience. It almost feels like the audience is kind of right in the show with you.
Somebody said that, a Frenchman, I think.
Cool.
Anyway, you don't have to answer that question. It was rude.
No, I mean, I do have a day job that I like very much, but this is really my passion. So the goal is not necessarily to make a living off of it, but the goal is to continually make enough to just do another show, to move on to the next one, and the one after that, and the one after that.
The Cherokee Indian tribe lived where Merrick Road now runs, and where the railroad passes through the hamlet of Wantagh, named for the sachem of the Cherokee when the wave of Dutch and English arrived in the 1650s. 19,000 of their descendants live here now.
I've been doing theater since I was a middle school kid. I was not terribly athletic, and I realized it was a great way to meet girls. I met my wife doing theater when I was 16. This is about a bachelor in Paris in the early 60s who's got 3 stewardess fiancées. And he says, well, what could go wrong? They're all on different routes. They'll never meet each other. So, what's a farce? They're going to meet each other very soon. And his best friend comes to visit, and, they have to figure out a way to get themselves out of trouble. It's a French play by a gentleman named Camilletti. Doors slamming, scantily clad women, stupid plot premises. The main issue with it, I think, is the timing. Nothing is funnier when it's timed right, and nothing is worse than when it's timed wrong, because these girls are not supposed to know each other. If someone steps on someone's line or someone misses a line and comes in and suddenly there are 2 girls on stage, that's the end of the show. Don't get me wrong, you say to me, what do you want to do? I wanted to do Anui's Antigone. I want to do Long Day's Journey into Night. There's a lot of dramas I want to do, but these comedies are really funny too, and I enjoy them, and people enjoy them.
Eastline also prides itself in, we know the theater community on Long Island, but there might be a gem out there that we don't even know about. So we hold open auditions, we have them read from the script, and I think for this community, that's the best.
Yes.
We get to see what's out there, and actors get to see what we're about. We're a true community theater. We really want to open ourselves up to everyone. We expect a lot from our actors, but we like to give them a lot back.
You gotta let Eastline do Eastline. Our form of commercial, I don't think is the same form of commercial for any other theater on Long Island. No one wants to come to a small black box space and see Barefoot in the Park shoved on a 17 by 17 stage. Unless it's something like Boeing Boeing, which is, you're not going to see it anywhere else.
I would love to have dedicated parking. That's a nice amenity. I'd like to have more than one John. There's a little bit of space in the backyard with a tarp over it, but that's not really a green room. Sometimes it's raining. Sometimes it's snowing. We're charging at full price $20 a ticket. The budgets for these shows are very low. Yes, we have a set with 5 entrances and exits, which I wasn't sure we were going to be able to do, but the whole budget of this show is less than $1,000. That's how we do it. We shop the thrift shop. This couch, which is actually very nice, a friend of mine was across the street and someone was putting it out in the garbage. And she called me up, she said, Pat, I think I have a couch for you. I said, great. So most of what we've got, we beg, borrow, and we steal, and we have to put it together on a shoestring, yet make it look as good as we can. I hope people come and see us. I hope people continue to audition, because I'd like to do this as long as I'm around, and I would love like-minded people to join us.
Matinacok Indians hunted and fished here before Englishmen bought the land from Chief Asharokan in 1656. Settlers farmed and grazed cows around the shore, calling the place Great Cow Harbor, until shipbuilding took over and the village became known as Northport. Incorporated in 1894, with a trolley line running down Main Street all the way to the railroad station in the village of Larkfield, Northport today has 7,700 residents, a big power plant, many beaches, and many boats, lots of little shops, and places to eat, either inside or in courtyards or facing the harbor. It has lots of people who know each other and know each other's parents and children. It has lots of dogs who know each other too, or want to. It has a good toy store, several ice cream shops, but no more cows, a waterside park with summer concerts, an outdoor market in fair weather with produce from Long Island's farms and other good things, a 1924 diner that came in on wheels, and the feel of a seaport town in Maine, or a seaport town on Long Island from another time, a simpler and quieter time. Northport also has several theater companies, including a 400-seat Equity House in the restored 1932 movie theater, and an edgy troupe called Bare Bones, with its own acting school. The Bare Bones group works in what was a 19th century dance hall, now a dance studio, which turns into a 40-seat black box theater on performance nights.
I'm very new to directing. I'm still getting my feet wet. So I'm an actor, and I direct occasionally. It's like I'm never gonna call myself a director, never. I don't call myself a director yet, because I'm still learning. I grew up in Kings Park, which is the next town over. I moved to East Northport, not too far from here. And over the couple of years, when I've come to this town, I've always loved it. It's very picturesque. It's by the water, cute little shops, great little restaurants. So it's a nice little town. Some Girls is about an engaged writer going back and visiting 4 of his ex-girlfriends. And that always struck me because when you have a relationship that goes badly, you kind of want to see, years later after you have some 20/20, you kind of want to go, okay, well, what really went wrong here? Now I can see what I did wrong. Or the other extreme, as to the person that feels wounded or hurt, now has the opportunity, after some time has passed, to really get into how this person has really hurt them.
The thing about LaBute is it's very interesting what he does in the conversations that he starts amongst women and men.
I never did that.
And in my opinion, the male character, he has to choose love in the end. I have a personal attachment to that because I was that guy that, I didn't walk out or just disappear on people, but I never wanted ex-relationships to not like me. I was that guy.
Bobby is a woman who hasn't seen this guy in a very long time.
You look fantastic.
And she's very curious about what happened to him because he left her very abruptly. She never heard from him until recently when he got in touch with her to set up this meeting. And she's put her hurt, her pain in a box, so to speak, but over the course of their encounter, she does end up showing her anger and her hurt. I mean, this was someone she loved very much, was in love with, and he abandoned her.
No, it's not.
Don't! Seriously.
I think most women have experienced a guy, that's the character's name, and am I Lindsay? No. I'm not married. I've never been married. Will never cheat, so having an affair, that's something I had to make up, but being rejected and left behind and made to feel that I wasn't good enough or whatever, because for her, it was her age. For me, it's always been, I'm too fat, I'm too skinny, I'm too dark, I'm too smart or too dumb, But I think she was devastated. Some women, I hope, I'm not a revengeful person. I'm really not. You did it, you're done, I'm gone. But some women would have to find a way to get back.
He doesn't have to do it. He chooses to do it. And he's making himself vulnerable to whatever happens in those meetings, which is a part of it that I find very interesting. You're setting yourself up for a huge failure.
Something very cathartic about Playing a role, playing a character who's in the right, who's been wronged and can be self-righteous about it properly.
We've had people see it or read it and go, oh, well, you know, you're such a bad person, he's such a dog, he's such this. And then you have other people that read it and see it and go, oh, I feel terrible for him.
One of the things that I love about Some Girls is that I guarantee you now all of our audience members are at a bar somewhere arguing about the play. It means I did my job. I want people to debate about our work. I want people to think about it for days afterwards. I want it to affect them. And I think the best theater really does that.
I love acting. I think it's the coolest thing in the world. Just the raw energy that you get from it.
Is that what you're trying to do here?
Especially when you're in a room full of people that are really excited to see the show or to see you. There's nothing like it. You walk on stage and just to get that immediate reaction. It's so cool, and it's probably the best payoff for your hard work.
I usually play the slave, or I play the maid, or the grounded good friend. I have been offered roles that the theater and the directors had the guts to go against casting and give me a shot. The one before, I did Virginia Woolf, and this was the first time it had been cast with a black Martha. I was scared. Would the audience accept me? You know, they've got Elizabeth Taylor in their minds, right? And now I'm going to come out. After the first performance, they stayed to talk to us, and I asked. You know, I told them that I was concerned about not being accepted, or, you know, my blackness would get in the way of the character. And to my joy, not one person said that it did. That's a gift. That was just such a gift.
The space, I love. I love unconventional spaces. I'd so much almost rather work in an unconventional space than on a proscenium stage. I feel very comfortable up close to the audience. You could blow people out of their seats in like someone's kitchen.
It's not about being in a big fancy theater. It's not about having, you know, tons of papers and stuff come in and do reviews. It's just about doing what you love, being proud of the work that you do, and continuing to explore.
There's so much good theater being done on Long Island. You know, being just outside of New York City is a bit of a curse in that way, is that everyone's gravitating towards the city. I've seen a lot of work in Manhattan that's not great, and I've seen a lot of really amazing work out here. So the more people who are out here creating stuff, the better it is for all of us. If Bare Bones does well, I want Studio to do well, I want Theater 3 to do well, I want Broad Hollow and Bayway to do well, because it means we all win. More people are coming to the theater, and I think that should be our goal, period.
On the opposite shore, the highway leads through a string of old towns, one by one, to the Hamptons, and their neighboring port, Sag Harbor. Once home to a great whaling fleet, now a place to walk in the East End lights so prized by painters, or to eat, or to see a show. 30 miles west, where Long Island's two East End forks split, sits the hamlet of Riverhead, at the mouth of the Peconic River. It has, among other things, an aquarium and a busy culinary arts school that sometimes invites the public, and lots of other places to have a meal and watch the cars go by.
I've lived in Riverhead for 35 years. It's my adopted hometown. Everything about it is what I was always lacking growing up in the northwest suburbs of Illinois. This theater, when they first rediscovered it sometime in the 70s, they started a campaign to refurbish it, to start raising some money, but it took them a couple decades to get it back to where it is now.
I was so overwhelmed by how it had such history, what had been done here. I could feel kind of the ghosts of previous performance, And I really just wanted to bring theater here in the worst way. To me, this place calls out to be filled with live theater.
As a local, it amazes me how many people have never been in, let alone have even a peripheral awareness that it's here.
The Fringe Festival was an opportunity to bring theater that I know would appeal to the people on the South Fork and have it in Riverhead and have access to people on the North Fork who may know a little bit about this, but it's something new for them, and find a way to bring people from both areas into a rich theatrical, artistic experience.
If I can just make them
Pray.
laugh, if I can get them to laugh.
I can get them to laugh, I can get them to learn.
Yes!
I like seeing God as a regular person that people can joke around with and answer questions and that walk around and maybe are a little schleppy and, whatever. It's refreshing. It's a fun play.
I cannot believe you still get top billing today.
To have myself be, God is it's a kind of quirky little spin and kind of fun. Still, I don't understand whether letting them
I
know.
originated the role as God as an improv, and it's an opportunity for me to see if the writing I did can withstand someone else performing it, because it was my baby. I nurtured it. I cared for it. I always portrayed God.
I'm serious. And don't call me
I'm a
Joe.
local Long Island boy. I was born in Sag Harbor, and I'm now living in Riverhead. It is great to see the arts growing in Riverhead. I think people are beginning to realize how important the arts are and what they can bring into the town. They bring in a lot of talent, and people discover Riverhead who've never been here.
It's not the North Fork, and it's not the Hamptons, and they're very different worlds.
I love Riverhead, and I love all of the people that I've had the opportunity of meeting. It's an incredibly vibrant community, but it was different. It was very different because I lived in New York for 25 years. We haven't been to jail yet, but all I have to do is pick up a drink, and I don't know where I'll wind up. So when I feel that way, I pick up a pen and write.
We're going to move it back to that other spot.
All right.
We met each other in sort of a public setting and discovered that we had all this common ground. We were both therapists, we were both poets, and we were both women in long-term recovery.
It should be up, prison bars, clang.
We bring to people the message that through writing, they can strengthen their sobriety, and that self-expression is an important part of recovery.
To move, to dance, to grow.
Yes, it's been a journey, and yes, there have been bumps in the road, but through writing, through living, through growing, through painful experiences, I think, I'll speak for myself, I came to a place where it's okay to be old, because I feel like I'm still growing.
I feel as though I have a calling to share an experience that's been extraordinary. But I'm like the late bloomer of late bloomers. I'm just starting. I think that we're in a time now where we need all the poetry we can get.
This play is 50 Flat by Brianna Singer. She's a student from Cornell University. She approached Hofstra looking for a director, and I'm a directing major. The play is 50 years in the future, an alternate America, where you take a test that determines what you can do with your life, where you live, who you can interact with, and we find a character who wants to bring justice to the system after finding out some truth about it.
The way that we live right now, our every move is watched by social media, even by not participating, that's noticed.
Oh, what if?
It's very hard as, millennials to break through and to try to succeed when there's just so much changing the world that we live in.
The whole process of narrowing down our selections was grueling, actually. We had over 80 submissions. We read every single play.
I had no idea that these festivals existed where it's all new works. It's all new works. So you have a playwright that has been pushing a story. Now you have actors coming together to storytell, a director, stage managers to help make that shell, that outer exterior shell.
The writers are all accomplished writers. It's there, but they also needed to know who we were. There was a big element of risk and trust that they would bring us something that was stage ready and that we were proud to present.
We perfected the art of compromise, right?
Right.
Pretty much.
Not really.
It came very easily. It came very easily to
No,
me.
it did not come easily. But we're here.
Port Jefferson, where Setauket Indians once lived, is now home to a luxury hotel, a ferry that shuttles people to and from Connecticut, countless small businesses, and a 160-year-old playhouse that was at various times in its past a vaudeville palace, a silent movie house, a roller rink, a basketball court, and a foreign film cinema. Now it's Theater 3.
I've been doing Christmas Carol since 1988. I adapt, I direct, and I've been playing Scrooge. So I've played Scrooge over 1,200 times. I readapt it every year. I'm thinking about Christmas Carol almost every day of my life, and certainly for that 3 months that it's all encompassing, and I'm still working to solve it. And every year I find a new piece. I've had a lot of kids work for me. This is a training ground, and I am committed to working with young people and growing their talent. But I'm also here to let them know that if they can find anything else in the world that will make them happy, they should do that, because this is a long, lonely, difficult road. There are no guarantees. Talent is no guarantee in this business. You have to have enormous drive. You have to have enormous commitment. You have to have a thick skin. It's not a bunch of people getting together to have silly fun and have coffee and gossip. We are here to work. We are here to produce. We are here to entertain. We are here to educate. We are here to elevate.
Adam, relax, calm down. Don't act this way.
Curses to express his frustration. There's cursing in this book. Let's get this over with.
Well, we're going to take a close look at that tooth and see if we can get going in that root canal. You just sit right there and you relax.
I am relaxed.
We were looking everywhere for a place to go to be here by September 1st. We came in, we looked at it, we're like, this is actually kind of perfect. We did it on a handshake. So we had 1 month to move the entire theater over to start our new season, which we did yesterday, and it was quite a big deal. We had lots of theater members, cast members, parents, kids, everybody just filling up cars and trucks and just moving everything here and just like putting it in the center of the room. It was an ordeal.
It was a lot of work. It took like a lot of guys to help out and bring it all together. It was a fun move.
Opening night, yay! My husband and I do this out of passion. I wanted to create a place that I wish I had growing up.
I wouldn't give you the satisfaction.
So that's where this whole thing came from.
Rats in the meat.
I know the owner of Studio Theater, David Dubin. I've known him for about 30 years, and we're not here to compete. This is a black box theater. It's a different kind of a theater.
The fact that we're just a few places down from Studio Theater is really good. We're creating a theater district.
We've discussed this, and we're here to support each other. We're here to revitalize this town. this is a place you want to come when, you want a night out. And it's all within walking distance. This is Lindenhurst. We're a cultural kind of town. And I find most of the people we work with are really good people. They have good hearts. They want to help each other. They want to give back. The actors and the community that we have, really good people, a nice community.
Long Island theaters, like theaters throughout New York State and the whole Northeast and all the rest of the country, have a life inseparable from the communities where they've grown. Like each town, each theater has a personality of its own. And to think of them all as satellites of Broadway or as tributaries to it is to miss what's best about them and the whole meaning of the word community.
And could you, I'll write it down.
I directed Ed Denny in a show about 10 years ago. He was great fun to work with, and he was even more fun to go out for a drink with afterwards. And Sue Ann was a lovely person. I never worked with her, but I knew her. When Ed and Sue Ann died, pretty much on the same day, after a rather dramatic and tumultuous life.
This isn't working. Half the time I'm talking to you, you're not even there.
So many people commented that their life and their deaths...
What are you doing? Are you insane?
...were the stuff of drama.
When I wrote parts of this play, I cried as I wrote it, and I want to convey that. I want that to come out for a theatrical experience for the audience. I want it to mean something and resonate.
Addiction, substance abuse, it's all about pain. It's all about shame. So once you kind of understand, and fear too, there's a lot of fear in there.
She lit up a room when she came into the room. She lit up the dressing room. She always had a positive outlook. So whatever was going on in her personal life, I did not see.
Getting the voice down, I got Joe Beck to send me some footage and just poring over the video trying to imitate the voice of Ed.
No, I said, in a firm but compassionate voice, one syllable, and I was free.
They had some very tough times, and we don't whitewash that. And I think as people of the theater, they would respect that.
Michael! Michael! Ah!
The playwright recreated some moments that I remember have happened, so I felt like they were with us.
Nothing is equal without honesty, even in a marriage.
Not everything I say
She loved him. He was her first love, and that doesn't easily die.
The doctor wants me to move into hospice. I'm going to listen to my doctor.
You, my Molly.
This play has provoked more discussion among the audience members than anything we've done. When we go to the intermission, I watch from the back and I see them all turning to one another. I think you go into it knowing full well that what you're creating is not going to last a long time, but you hope, or I hope, that when people think back on that show, certain moments that moved them or touched them come back to them.
Brian, I'm pissed off and drunk, not dumb.
I love the 2 hours that the show is on. I love to stand in the back. I love to watch the audience's response. But I'm mindful that in 2 hours the lights are going to come up and they're going to walk out the door. But I hope that the 5% of what they remember will move them or make them think differently about the human condition or how they fit into the human condition. Perhaps they see something on stage that makes them think, I'm like that. I didn't even realize I was like that until I saw it right there. And I can't believe it, but I am like that.
I'm tired.
Shit.
You want the truth?
No, keep lying. It's worked so well for you.
Maybe that's the best that we can hope for, that it moves people to change the way they view themselves. That lasts a lifetime, hopefully, even if the play doesn't.
And a little bit of your bio. Huntington director and actor Ed Denny.
We've had good success with the original works. Word of mouth. We've done 4 so far in the last 2.5 years. All 4 have been good and have brought audiences in. And I would love this to be the theater where people come see new works, and then what goes on to New York and lives happily ever after. And then I think you've done your job as well as you can.
I love actors. I love working with actors. I love hanging around actors. I love talking to actors about the play and about acting. Like I said, I am an actor.
People stereotype actors in the worst possible way. I find actors are brave, wonderful, giving people.
I love being on stage. Doesn't matter if it's a bare stage. It doesn't matter if it's a packed house. It doesn't matter if it's an empty house. It could be before anyone even gets to rehearsals. I love the energy. I love the feel of it.
One of the things that drew me to being an actor as a little girl is that I realized, I don't know how I realized it, stage is the only place that I feel free.
Anxiety always happens, no matter how far along you are in theater, in my opinion. Every opening night, right before I go on stage, I go, why am I doing this to myself?
When we were little, he used to rehearse, used our house as rehearsal. So we grew up around theater all our lives.
I've been acting since I was a child.
I've been acting for probably almost 40 years.
Just started one day, wanted to do it, and pretty much on a dare from my wife. My wife said, stop talking about it, go out and do it.
There's a bunch of people that really believe in me, which is incredible, and I'm so grateful for it. But the most important person that has to believe in me is me, and it's going to be a hard road, but I'm really excited to work for it.
I think it gives you the ability to come out of yourself and put yourself in somebody else's shoes. It's an exercise in empathy.
You're there in the moment, in the energy of the moment. The audience responds to you. You get to hear the applause, you get to hear the laughter, you get to hear the best sound of all sometimes, which is the absolute silence in a theater when the people are really listening to you.
In the old days, when I started directing on Long Island 25, 30 years ago, you'd have auditions posted in Newsday and the line would be out the door. That doesn't happen anymore. Just a handful of people show up. The numbers have fallen off in the audience too. Theater doesn't, at least on Long Island, doesn't have the draw that it did.
The audience it's a senior crowd. We have some subscribers who are over 100 years old, God bless them, and they still buy subscriptions, and they come out and they see all the shows, and they tell us when they love them and they tell us when they hate them, but they keep coming.
I don't want to consider this a dying art. Have enough invested in this to make sure it isn't, but that is just the reality of the situation right now.
We have a great core of subscribers who are very loyal, which is wonderful, and we start with that, and we hope that they tell their friends and family.
The challenge we all have is, how do we develop that next generation of theater goer? How do we get the 40s and 50s to want to come? We used to do a variety of shows. We had a very diverse season, but when you have 30 people sitting in a theater of 365 seats, it becomes very difficult then to pay your bills. So that's why we turn to, a full musical format. And that's what everybody wants to see. They want to leave tapping their feet singing songs. So that's what we give them.
Theaters have to make money. Theaters have to pay the rent, and musicals tend to be large casts. They tend to be There tend to be children in the cast, and children bring parents and grandparents and friends and teachers.
My clue is if somebody asks me where the bathroom is, at least every night, then I know I have a new patron in the house, so we've done our job.
There are children in the play, and children are a little different to direct. They're a little challenging. But on the other hand, they're easy because they understand make-believe. They understand pretend. It's easy for them. So you tell pretend you're this, pretend you're that. They do it every day.
This happens to be a very important play right now, with the craziness that's happening in the country. It's hope, it's love, it's justice, it's finding heroes in unlikely places.
There's a lot going on not to smile about these days. So, if I can have a couple of hundred people leave on a given day and they're smiling and they've had, 2 to 2.5 hours of joy and they've been able to forget whatever it is they needed to forget, that's a wonderful thing.
People have talked about theater dying for the last 200 years. Theater will always be dying and always be reborn. Theater is not going anywhere.
In Long Island, people are doing theater out of love, passion, whatever reason, but it's part of a much larger life. And so you can have all sorts of problems. And you can't simply say, well, make this your priority. You can't. They can't.
I never had the courage, and I applaud people who do, who have the courage to put aside everything else, other things in their lives, things that are deemed more responsible or whatever, and make a go of it.
That's why I don't do it professionally, or didn't pursue it professionally. I like acting because I like the role, because I like the experience, because I want to work with that person, I want to work on that play.
I just love just performing, without any expectations of what'll happen or not happen or whatever. And it's just, I love it. I just like being on stage.
I work as an actor in film a lot. I try to come back to do at least 2 plays a year. I work as a grip and electrician in film. I work as a production assistant. I've worked as a writer. Acting is the goal, just to be involved, in creating.
As an actor, you can't just be an actor. You have to be an actor and a writer, an actor and a director, all 3, an actor and a stage manager. Put your hands in scenic design, costume design. You have to know a little bit of something so that even if you're not on stage necessarily, you can still have a hand in a production.
I do this and I also teach kids acting. It's harder to find work in acting and directing, I'd say. So I keep up with stagehanding and tech stuff to pay the bills.
I am a Southampton Town dispatcher for the police department of Southampton Town.
Once I realized I wasn't going to make a living at it, I knew I still wanted to do theater, so I went to get my master's in theater, and I figured I would teach in college if I, as a fallback, and that's what I've been doing, and I really enjoy doing for over 20 years.
I teach kids, I teach adults, I do a lot of children's theater directing, and I perform as well.
Most people here in this theater and the other theaters that I've worked in, they've got degrees in acting, right? Long Island Theater has been my school. That's my college.
I work for the Long Island Cauliflower Association, and I am the seed inventory control clerk, which means I really count beans.
I've been working constantly. But yeah, there are a few roles. I've been lucky.
I think that the world of theater needs someone like me to, bring something new to it. So I'm going to continue to produce and just give it all I got. I think that it's not too hard because I believe. So once you really believe in yourself and that you could do it, it's not really hard.
I don't care about being famous. In fact, being famous scares me, and I think that's slowed me up a lot. I don't need to be famous. I just need to be good.
I would love to win a Tony. I would love to win a Tony.
We will always do the best that we can. It may not be the best, but it is our best.
Listen, we love what we do because we get to explore. We get to play. I mean, that's why it's acting. You get to put on a play. You get to play other people. And at the end of the day, I think that actors are just overgrown kids that never wanted to grow up.
I am definitely a Long Island theater kid. My roots are here. My acting is done here. This is home. This is home, and it means everything to me. Acting, of course, is the instant gratification. Writing a play, having the discipline to finish it, is a much more difficult thing.
The hardest part for me is having to go back and rewrite, because, the act of writing is rewriting, constantly rewriting.
Well, for me, writing was always a way of survival.
I'd say I'm pretty much always writing. It's a way of thinking.
It's absolutely a process of self-discovery.
I can visualize what to do with a play, but I can't start with a blank page and create people. I wouldn't even try.
There are some of us who have to try everything. Not just to do it, but because we do have something to say. You reach a stage of life, your hair turns white, you have to cross over into old age. What universe are you in now? That's got to be your subject, because it's got hold of you. You dragoon others into helping you. You pull the confusion of real life into a story. You push the words onto paper and come up with a title, 66 Candles, which is a lot easier to say than the importance of not being earnest. You get actors to read draft 11 of your script. You start creating a production just for the fun of it, as you write draft 12 and then 13. Your drama takes on comic coloring because there's something ridiculous about old age. You get a local library to host a script-in-hand presentation. You age yourself at triple speed with rehearsals, props, music cues. And then you do it.
Or did I simply recognize you in some weird way at the dance social?
What difference does it make? That issue has weight for you?
However it plays out, I want to pick up a baby again.
Now or never.
Eeny, meeny, miny, moe. Is it fun? Are struggle and uncertainty and exhaustion fun? Is birthday cake fun? Play and work can't be separated, and humans can't live life without peering into it and under it for its meaning, and without standing back from it to laugh, too. And that's why, busy as we grown-ups are, and quickly as all our creations fade away, we make the time to put on plays.